precisely 6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Lal Mallavarachi and read by Sharifa Tahir. Headlines. The IMF has commended the steps already taken by the Finance Minister to mitigate the economic crisis and assured fuller support to Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister says the responsibility of all at this moment is to find a lasting solution for this issue. Police curfew has been declared within the limits of Rambukkana police area until further notice. The police headquarters says that an extensive investigation into the police shooting at Rambukkana will be carried out. Common fuel pricing formula to be introduced for LIOC and CPC. News overseas, Russia bombards cities as Eastern offensive begins. In sports, cricket, Timut Karnaratne, Sri Lanka's test captain, has signed for Yorkshire on a short-term deal. We move on to local news in detail. Minister of Finance Ali Sabri has met with the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, at IMF headquarters in Washington, D.C. The IMF is positive on working with Sri Lanka on achieving a sustainable solution, with discussions on extended fund facility for Sri Lanka were also discussed, a brief release said. Minister of Finance Ali Sabri had met with the IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva last Monday at the IMF headquarters in Washington, D.C. The IMF has commended the steps already taken by the Finance Minister to mitigate the situation and assured fuller support by the IMF, which was also positive on expediting the processes. Minister Sabri has also made a request for a rapid financing instrument. The IMF subsequently informed Minister Sabri that India had also made representations on behalf of Sri Lanka on an RFI and informed him that they will consider it despite it being outside of the standard circumstances for the issuance of an RFI. Police curfew has been declared within the limits of Rambukkana police area yesterday. The curfew order will be effective until further notice, the police spokesman said. The move came after one person died last evening following a clash between the protesters and the police during a demonstration staged in Rambukkana against the recent fuel price hike. The victim, who was rushed to the Kagal Teaching Hospital, was pronounced dead due to gunshot wounds, the director of the hospital, Dr. Mihiri Priyangani, confirmed. At least 24 other injured persons, including 8 police officers who were at the scene, have also been admitted to the Kagal Teaching Hospital. Several of them are reportedly in critical condition. Police media spokesman SSB Nihal Thalduwa said a suspected mob group was involved in protest against the fuel price hike, has set a 3-wheeler on fire and tried to fire a petrol bowser. The police was forced to use tear gas to disperse the rioters and the mob. The police headquarters said in a statement that an extensive investigation into the police shooting at Rambukkana will be carried out and bring justice for the victims of the incident. Meanwhile, Ambassador of the United States to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, says a full transparent investigation needs to be conducted into the police shooting, which claimed the life of one individual following a tense situation during a protest staged in Rambukkana. On her official Twitter account, the U.S. envoy emphasized that the people's right to peaceful protest must be upheld. The resident coordinator of United Nations in Sri Lanka, Hana Singha Hamdi, has also raised deep concerns over the casualties reported during the protest in Rambukkana yesterday. In a tweet, the UN envoy stressed that violence by any party involved hinders the rights of peaceful protesters. She noted that restricting the use of force to the minimum extent necessary is vital to protect citizens and their right to exercise fundamental freedoms. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa said the government admits the people in the country is facing many difficulties. The government is, however, committed to end the queues and to provide essential items to the public without any disruption. He added that the LPG, fuel and electricity crisis are only the visible issues and that there are many untold issues arising from those issues. He also added that the country is facing a crisis where all have to get together to find a way out. This is not a time to fish in the troubled waters to gain petty political gains. He said the finance minister, finance ministry secretary and the central bank governor are committed to bring this issue back to normal. Our responsibility at this moment is to find a lasting solution for this issue while applying short-term measures to relieve the people's difficulties. Hence, the opposition should make an intervention in this endeavour rather than resuming protests. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation giving you the news. Continuing with more stories here at home. Minister of Energy and Power Kanchana Wijesekara says a common fuel pricing formula for Lanka IOC and the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation will be introduced in the future. In his first address in the Parliament yesterday as the Energy and Power Minister, the lawmaker said an agreement in this regard was reached with Lanka IOC in a discussion recently. Speaking on the recent fuel price hike by the CPC after Lanka IOC's move, Minister Wijesekara said the fuel prices were revised to minimize the daily loss of 1.6 billion rupees incurred by the corporation. On his official Twitter account, Minister Wijesekara said the Energy Ministry will give priority to procuring fuel timely, making fuel widely available and introducing a fuel pricing formula. Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has pledged continued support to Sri Lanka in a separate meeting held with Finance Minister Ali Sabri at IMF headquarters in Washington, D.C. Indian Finance Minister Sitharaman and a top-level Indian economic delegation had met with Finance Minister Ali Sabri and his delegation at the IMF headquarters, Washington, D.C. on the 18th of April. Ms. Sitharaman has assured Minister Sabri of India's fullest support moving forward and reiterated India's commitment to developing the Sri Lankan economy and building a stronger bond between the nations as they move forward together. Ms. Sitharaman also assured Minister Sabri that India will give their fullest support to Sri Lanka in its deliberations with the IMF, including on expediting an extended fund facility. The Parliamentary COPE Committee has called the Sri Lankan Airlines Group to summon for an inquiry. The discussion will focus on the information regarding proposed procurement of 21 airplanes to promote the tourism sector. A report will be submitted in due course. It should be noted that State Minister D.V. Shanaka said in Parliament that the proposed will be executed in 1.5 years' time. In the meantime, the price of a loaf of 450 grams of bread will be increased by 30 rupees with effect from April 19th, the Bakery Owners Association says. In the meantime, the prices of other bakery products will be raised by 10 rupees, the association stated further. That's local news for the moment. Moving on to main news. The fares of Sri Lanka Transport Board and privately owned buses will be increased by 35% with effect from today, Transport Minister Dilum Amanugama says. Thereby, the minimum fare will now stand at 27 rupees. The bus revision comes just days after Lanka IOC and the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation announced increases in their fuel prices. On Sunday, Lanka IOC once again increased the retail prices of petrol and diesel sold through its filling stations. Thereby, the price of all types of petrol was increased by 35 rupees per litre and diesel by 75 rupees. That's the main news story. Moving on to Watchlight. Health sector points out that unnecessary gatherings should be minimized during the festive season. Director of the Colombo Lady Ridgeway Hospital, Dr. S. Vijay Surya, said that if people follow the health guidelines further, a risk of recreation of another corona wave can be prevented. He requests the public to adhere to health guidelines strictly during this season. That's on Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
No matter what anyone says, for your lease, visit the Leasing Mahagedara. People's Leasing, Friendly Leasing Mahagedara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
World News headlines: Russia bombards cities as Eastern offensive begins. Ethiopians queue at Russian embassy to enlist for war. UK set for slowest growth in G7 as Ukraine war hits global economy. Moving on to world news in detail now. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said Russia has launched an assault to seize the eastern Donbas region. Russian and Ukrainian forces clashed on Tuesday along the eastern front line after Mr. Zelensky said the battle for the Donbas had begun. Ukraine's top security official Oleksiy Danilov said Russia was trying to break through Ukrainian defensive positions throughout Ukraine's east. The offensive had been expected after Russia failed to seize Kiev. The war in Ukraine will severely set back the global economic recovery, with the UK hit harder than most, the International Monetary Fund has said. The conflict is driving up prices for food and fuel, which the international body expects to slow growth globally. It has cut its global forecast and also downgraded its outlook for the UK. This means the UK will no longer be the fastest growing economy in the G7 group of leading Western nations and will be the slowest in 2023, it says. Finally, on world news, dozens of young Ethiopian men continue to gather at the Russian embassy in the capital Addis Ababa, following rumors of soldiers being recruited to fight the war in Ukraine. But the embassy spokeswoman Maria Chernukina said no recruitment was being carried out in Ethiopia. She said the crowd was showing solidarity with Russia. That's world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
For your wheel lease, visit the Leasing Mahagedara. People's Leasing, Friendly Leasing Mahagedara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Development News is brought to you by... Let's take coal out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
And on development news, the Sri Lanka Export Development Board, in coordination with the Consulate General of Sri Lanka in Guangzhou, organized a virtual B2B meetings on the 6th of April and 7th between 5 prominent Sri Lankan gem and jewelry companies and 2 prominent Chinese companies in the duty-free sector of Hainan Province, China. The Sri Lankan companies were Beauty Gems, Gem Paradise, Precision Lapidaries, Zam Gems and Anglo Gems, while the Chinese companies were China Duty-Free Group Company and Hainan Provincial Diamond and Jewelry Company. The Consul General of Sri Lanka in Guangzhou, Priyangika Dharmasena, said that Sri Lanka is a reliable supplier of precious stones, including Ceylon sapphires. She encouraged both sides to productively engage with an end result in mind to sell and buy. That's on Development News.
Development News was brought to you by... The coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928. Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Dimuth Karunaratne, Sri Lanka's Test captain, has signed for Yorkshire on a short-term deal with the first of his 3 LV County Championship appearances due to take place against Northamptonshire at Wantage Road tomorrow. Karunaratne, 33, is currently the number 5 ranked Test batter in the world and has enjoyed a prolific run of form in recent months with 5 centuries in his last 8 tests, including a career-best 244 against Bangladesh at Pallekele in April 2021. In all, he has scored 5,620 test runs at 39.57 with a total of 1,400s and looks set to form a left-handed opening partnership with Adam Leith at the top of Yorkshire's batting card. That's on Sports News.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
And on business news, Sri Lanka's rupee was quoted at 330-340 for telegraphic transfers at most banks on April 19th, remaining at the same levels as the previous day, while the secondary market was inactive, market participants said. The central bank's indicative spot was quoted at 310 rupees against the US dollar today. Yesterday, central bank's telegraphic transfer rate was 322.7 to 335 against the US dollar.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
And on economic news, the central bank has announced that treasury bills worth 97,500 million will be sold tomorrow through tender procedure. The sales procedure will be held at 11 a.m. These treasury bills have maturity of 91,182 and 364 days will be sold tomorrow. That's on economic news. And finally, we give you a weather update. The Met Department says the low-level atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka moving away from the island. Several spells of showers will occur in Western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in Gola and Mathura districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places elsewhere during the evening or night. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in eastern, over, north central and northern provinces. General public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. This weather report was published at 7:30 p.m. last night, and further details could be obtained by visiting the official website of the department. That's the weather update, and back to the headlines before we wind up this bulletin of news. The IMF has commended the steps already taken by the finance minister to mitigate the economic crisis and assured fuller support to Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister says the responsibility of all at this moment is to find a lasting solution for this issue. Police curfew has been declared within the limits of Rambukana police area until further notice. The police headquarters says that an extensive investigation into the police shooting at Rambukana will be carried out. common fuel pricing formula to be introduced for LIOC and CPC. News overseas, Russia bombards cities as Eastern Offensive begins. And in sports, it was cricket. Dimuth Karunaratne, Sri Lanka's Test captain, is signed for Yorkshire on a short-term deal. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. And it's back to Viana this morning to give you some good company. Over to you.